Welcome to the Performance Formula with Jody Martins. JJ, really cool having you here on the podcast. This is the first podcast for a new podcast that I'm recording, and I'm sort of very excited about this conversation with you in particular. I've known you for a very long time. I think the first time I met you, you were most probably 9 or 10 years old. Randburg Cricket Club Nets. Very long time ago, and so I'm very excited to just chat with you about your journey a little bit and see what we can learn from you. You know, and as much as I know you've maybe learned from me a little bit, and you've learned from some of the coaches that's been in my environment at times. I think it's really awesome that you're here and we can chat a little bit about cricket and your journey.
Oh, no, awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
JJ, to get us going here, right? Like, just tell me sort of like, what is it that if you think of the game of cricket, right? Like, what is it that got you interested in this game? Like, where did it start?
I think it started, back home. When I was a young boy, usually I enjoyed playing in the yard with dad. And I think from there, I think the love for the game just grew. It's just something that stuck with me. As I grew up, as I got older, it's just something that stayed consistent in my life and something I enjoy doing now.
And what is it about the game in particular that made you love it? Was it the competitiveness of it? Was it just the fun of it? Was it that you thought you could make something out of it? What was the thing for you that had that stickability?
For me, it always was fun. From the start, it's something, as I said, I enjoyed it very much. And I think part of that came from spending time with friends because, when you were young, usually you just play the sport and spend time with friends on the field, you have a laugh. So I think that's really a big thing for me is spending time with folks that have the same passion, same love for the game. You always get, you get around those oaks quite well, and it's almost like you link, and it's always fun spending time with people like that.
Yeah. Yet, like being a fast bowler can be I think it can be a little bit lonely at times, because you need the fielders. You need the fielders around you to actually help contribute to your wickets at times, but it can be a lonely endeavor when things are not going well,
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely say there is times where you feel like you're working alone, but it's a team sport, and there's always someone having your back, even if it feels like you're struggling or you're walking on this path alone. There's always someone behind you backing you up and making sure you're always on the right path and helping you every time you need anything.
So, love for the game, right? Like what I can vaguely remember. I mean, it's been many years ago, but more than 10, I suppose, or around 9 or 10 years ago. What I vaguely remember is that, you would come to your sessions and you would bowl, bat, get on with it. And there was always a little bit of pace in you. I think even when you were a little bit younger, that left arm of yours did come over at a rate. When was the time, or when did you, and I mean, it's not like you have made it, let's say, right? You're a youngster. How old are you now? 17 still? Or 18?
Yeah, 17. 17.
17. Yeah, 17, right? So at what point in time did you, so far in your short sort of period playing the game and being involved and having achieved sort of the things that you've achieved, at what point in time do you go, hang on, I could actually maybe make something out of this? Like was there a time where it went from fun to something a little bit more serious, or are you still busy discovering that?
No, I think definitely when I started high school, something in me said, listen, I can actually do this. as a profession and something maybe make money, almost like have this sport as a job, And I think from when I started high school, I was just kept working hard, trying to learn as much as possible so that I can give myself the best shot in making it in this sport.
Mm. I mean, wow, that's awesome. So at around the age of 14, because that would be high school in South Africa.
Yes.
And so in the last 3 years, what would you say has been some of, having this realization, like, hi, I could maybe make something out of this, right? Like I could legit do this as a job. What would you say has been some of the biggest struggles you've had, in the last couple of years?
I think definitely staying injury free is a big one. I think any athlete would tell you that it's because you're always playing games and you're always involved with different teams. You need to stay injury free because ultimately wherever you play, the team expects the best from you and you expect the best from yourself. So definitely staying injury free. But also if you're involved in a lot of teams, there is certain expectations and then just making sure I almost give my best to everyone, not, favoring one tournament or one team higher than the other, and just keeping it fair and fair to myself, fair to my fellow teammates, and not being only one-sided.
Yeah. I'd imagine you're talking there sort of about school cricket versus club cricket versus international cricket. I don't know if you're involved in the academy structures yet, where you're at, but like what's the sort of challenge for you with that? Like being able to commit the same energy, the same motivation, the same things through different spheres, right? Because I can imagine one feels way more important than the other. And you've got some pretty big stuff coming up in the new year, being part of the SA20 sort of team Paul Royals, if I'm correct. How do you, as young as you are, right? Like normally we ask this question of the old guys who've been around the block and they've seen it all. But you're a youngster, busy going through this, busy experiencing it. How do you sort of make sense of that? Like these different levels, staying committed at all of them. Yeah.
I think I've got quite a good support panel, back home and with coaches, so they help me really, really well and keep me on the right path. And I think it's just management, to be honest, is knowing where and when I can play, when it's good for myself, for my body, and also the times where I do play, for instance, the school cricket, is just to give my all. And for the school teammates, I usually, because I've been or am slightly bit more experienced, because I've been privileged enough to play in different teams and higher stages, always try and maybe teach someone something or at least leave a mark after maybe each training or each game. So always try and maybe if I can't give you or if I can't do 100% in game, I try and maybe whatever I'm missing, try and maybe teach you just so that I don't feel I'm giving not enough.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, that's like, I don't think we could ask more necessarily, like you're still young, you're still learning yourself. And I think that's a very noble thing to be thinking about, like, how do I contribute to sort of more than the team than just me being here and playing, You mentioned there expectations that's on you. And I'm sure there could be many that you place upon yourself too. It might not just be expectations from parents and coaches and the system in general. And I think you're going to play in your first Coke Week this year, yet you've played at higher levels already. So I'm sure there's lots of these sort of things that can be seen as pressures, in inverted commas, on your shoulders. Like as a 17-year-old looking to break into the system, How do you go about that? How do you sort of day in, day out make sense of what's busy happening in your life and what you're busy going through in order to try your best to achieve that so that it doesn't harm your ability to achieve that?
I think you mentioned pressure, and I think pressure is definitely something I enjoy. Even if it is um, almost managing and balancing everything that I've going on, something I enjoy. It's a privilege to have to be under pressure, especially in the sport. Then if you're under pressure, you're doing something well or doing something right. So, but I think it's something you taught me when I did that course quite a couple of years back. Is I take a step back, especially when there's a lot of information coming and advice coming. I just take a step back and look at it from the outside, and then I just decide, is it good for me? And if it's good for me, then I'll go with it. And I think that is something that's really been helping me in this journey so far. I mean, as you said, I'm still 17, quite young, getting into things. So, but I think up until this point, that is definitely something I have been using and probably will continue to use throughout my career. So yeah, it makes things really, really easier.
Brilliant. Tell me, like and I mean, you raised it there that you and I have done a little bit of work, right? I think the thing that, without me sort of saying too much of the stuff that we've spoken about and the work that we've done, the thing that's always stood out for me with you in particular, and I think one of the reasons I really want to have this conversation is to say, you were like 13, 14 years old, and already then you were interested in the mental side of the game. I think COVID sort of just hit us at that time. And I started this weekly group where it was a bunch of athletes just getting together. We had a couple of cricketers in there, a couple of first-class cricketers at one point in time, a tennis player, a golfer, a parent or two. And what really stuck with me during that time was, unfortunately, due to a whole bunch of stuff, I stopped running that group. But I think what stuck out for me during that time was very much like how you were mindful about these things and sort of thinking about the mental side of the game, even though you were just 14 or 15 years old at the time. Like, where did that come from? Because that's rare. Like, from my point of view, 13, 14-year-olds who almost on their own say, right, I'm going to keep joining this meeting on a Thursday evening because I'm learning something, and not just sit there, not, contributing in healthy ways to the discussion. Like, what is it that sparked that interest or made you realize, like, hey, there's an important part here that I also need to pay attention to?
Well, I think being 13, 14 years of age, I think that's when, as we said earlier on, that's where cricket almost started taking priority in my life. And I think, I don't know who it was, but someone mentioned that there's two sides to the game of cricket. There's the physical one, and then there's the mental one. And I think something in me, I don't know if it was my parents or if it was myself, but I think something just said, well, you're going to improve your physical side of the game. But the mental side is not something a normal coach is going to give you. It's something you're going to have to find someone that knows the mental side. And I think that's where I was fortunate enough to come across your path and the course and everything, the Thursday nights and the chats. And as you said, there was first class athletes, high performance athletes on it. And I can remember sitting in those Zoom meetings during COVID, and I think just before, I just kept absorbing and writing down because I knew this is the information I'm getting. It's something that took other athletes years to figure out, and I'm privileged enough to be able to be 13, 14 and hearing this from people who play sport as a living.
Yeah, so I want to raise a point just around that, right? Like, those things, when I offered it, was for free. The course was maybe not, but then the attend this Thursday evenings or whatever it was, that was for free, right? And everybody just showed up. Oh, it wasn't a large group of people, but everybody showed up and sort of contributed in their own ways. And I think it was, I'll definitely start one of those again, I think, at some point in time. But I think it was fascinating. And I love what you say there around, and again, I think it's rare. It's not, because there was, believe me, that information was sent to most probably 30 kids your age at the time that was aware that there was this meeting. You chose to show up, right? And so I think there's, if I look down the line and I say, hang on, JJ is a little bit ahead of where some of those cricketers are. Yes, you've got ability. Yes, you've got skill. Yes, you've got all of these things. But I would hope that also played a part. And not just hope, I know it played a part at some level, like that you're capable of maybe dealing with some things that maybe they aren't, or you have found a way to get yourself a little bit of a step ahead in a space where others are not paying attention at all. And so, I think that was something that was brilliant on your side. And again, I don't know if it was your parents initially, or I'm assuming it was them, because I know I was in contact with them quite a bit at the time. But yeah, having said that, right? So here you are, 17 years old. You're about to play with the big guns. You're about to play with some of the, like, I think Miller is in your team. David Miller is in there. I looked through it this morning. Now I'm at a blank, right? But he was definitely the one that stood out for me. And so you're on this sort of precipice of taking a big step into a big world. What's your sort of thoughts and feelings about that?
I'm definitely excited. It's something I'm looking forward to. I mean, this time last year, I was booking tickets to go watch these players, play a game of cricket, and now I've got the opportunity to spend time with them in the same dressing room at training, see how they operate and go about their processes. So I'm really thrilled. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a bit nervous, but I think it's good nerves. And yeah, I can't wait to get into the group and just see these professionals in action and just trying to learn as much as possible. I think it's going to be a big thing for me. Just almost be like a sponge and just absorb as much as possible.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that that's a very good strategy, always and forever, whether you're a new cricketer or a more seasoned cricketer, right? Like I think the learning never ever stops. What would you say is, if you think of your sort of last 12 months, right? Well, what would you say is some of the most significant things that you've learned over the last year?
I think over the last year is anything can happen. I think I had quite a big injury that saw me be out of the game for about 4 months, which was tough. I think it's definitely tough mentally. After I had 2 very successful tours with the SA19 team, coming back and then got injured and out of the game for 4 months, so I definitely like realized that this game doesn't owe you anything. One day you'll be on top of the world, and the next it's a terrible feeling, when you get injured. And I think also, but just not only that the game is unforgiving, but also like how consistency is an important factor in cricket in general. If you and what I and that I actually learned over the last couple of months, being part of the squad, the Lions squad that competed in the T20 challenge. From these professionals, I just learned how consistency and showing up each day and doing your best really pays off. And once you enter the big stage and you stand in the middle and there's a crowd and people's chanting your name, and that's when hard work pays off and your consistency paid off. So I definitely think over the last 12 months, gratefulness, definitely very grateful for everything that can come and has come over my path, but also consistency. This is 2 big things that I've learned.
If we had to double click on that idea of the consistency, what is that? What is it that you see these guys do? Or what is it that you think you can do more of in terms of being consistent?
I think it's just, it's something you hear from every athlete is doing the basics correctly. And I think that is so, so, so important. If you can consistently, day in, day out, 365 days a year, work on your basics, keep improving those little things, those 1%ers. I think that is definitely where the consistency is hiding, in my opinion. If I look at consistency, it's when you do the little things, the basics, the things you don't want to do, you keep doing them, keep mastering those little skills, I think. And then when you get to a certain stage of the game or certain competition, tournament, that's when those basics and those mastering those little 1%ers is going to pay off.
Can you give me like an example of what that is for you? Like, what would an example be of a basic 1%er that you're consistent at, or doing your best to be consistent at? Or what you see in others, right? What you see in these elite guys.
And I think for what I do as a fast bowler in a cricket team, it's definitely being consistent with my lines and my length, in terms of controlling where I want the ball to land. I think that is definitely a big thing, because as you play higher up, your margin for error gets smaller. And if you can consistently stay at a certain area of the deck and a certain place, and you can almost control every single ball, that is where the best separate from the average.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, I agree with that. You look at the pitch maps of a Hazelwood or a Cummins versus at times some other bowlers from around the world. You understand why they are, as example, or a Glenn McGrath or Sean Pollock before them are guys that I think like they're just run up that area where they bowl is not very big. How do you think that equates to, because you say you've just been with the Lions and you've sort of spent some time in their T20 space. How do you think that idea as a fast bowler, as a young fast bowler, so test cricket where South Africa just won in India, and you'd almost expect that, like we're bowling one area, versus T20 cricket, and we often think variety, etc., etc. Does the 1%ers and these basics fit for you in both those worlds, or do you think of them separately or differently?
Oh, it definitely fits in both worlds, I mean, if you look at the Proteas that just won in India, their consistent control over the deliveries. If you look at Marco Jansen picking up 6 in the first innings, if he was slightly less consistent, it could have been a totally different game, totally different result. And if you take that down to the Lions and putting it into a T20 competition, I mean, it's no surprise that T20 cricket has been evolving like it has been. I mean, you are in the US, and the US is building their own T20 tournament, and scores are easily going 220, 200 plus. And that is where your consistent control over your 1%ers and your line and lengths is where the teams that will win the tournament and the teams that will be runner up or get the bronze, that is where you'll see the difference in performance and ultimately the results.
Yeah. What do you, and I mean, I don't know, right? Like, I think there's many answers to this question, potentially. Like, if you think of bowling your consistent line and length as a fast bowler, is there anything specific you focus on or you use to help you with that? Like, I'll give an example. I know I had a chat with, what's that fast bowler's name? He played for the Warriors. Oh, man. Oh, I can't remember his name now. But I had a chat with this fast bowler, and he sort of said to me it was about his hang time. He knew if he could hang in the air, there was a certain feeling he got, like in his left arm, when he was in the air, his hang time, how long that was. So if it was too long or if it was too short, that wasn't great for him. And then he had a very specific thing with his left arm. And he knew if those two things were there, it's like he almost couldn't miss his line and length, you know? Have you got some triggers like that or things that you use to help you in that way?
I think for me, I mean, I'm far from, a great player. I'm still getting there. But for me, at the moment, it's definitely, I would say my run up. If I've got a good rhythm in the run up, running nice and fast, almost gliding, it doesn't feel like I'm running in. It's just myself and my feet pushing off the floor. Everything feels smooth into the jump, and I've got a nice compact and strong gather. I think that's when I feel I'm bowling at my best, hitting the lines 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times, where I'm really, really bowling well and enjoying it almost more than other days.
So what is it that happens on the other days? Is it tiredness in your body? Is it like, what is it that sometimes takes away from that?
I don't think it's fatigue or in that sense. You just get those days where everything goes perfectly, exactly how you drew it up. And those days, you just enjoy them more because it's nothing went wrong. It's how you drew it up. You said the ball's going there, the ball went there. So it's just those days, you train for those days, and that's something you want to achieve every day. But it's also part of the game is you more often than not, you won't have those games, and you would just have those days where you bowl well, but it's not those type of games where you just feel fantastic.
Yeah. That's normal, right? I think failure is 60 to 70% of the game, whether you're a batter or a bowler. Most of the time, and if you just look at stats, right, like the best batters in the world don't get past 50, more than 40%. Like we're talking about Don Bradman, who's a outlier, who's about 52%. Other than that, the best of the best of the best are somewhere between 30 and 40%. And more often than not between 30 to 35. And it's similar for bowlers. If you look at stats sort of over 3 wickets that they've taken in a game, it's in and around a similar sort of space. So failure is built in, right? So we're not always going to have those good days. And I think you know and understand that, I'm just curious, like you're on this journey, you're busy still learning and developing. Is there anything specific that you're sort of, if you think over the last 12 months again, is there anything specific that you've been really focused on adding to your game, whether it be technically, tactically, mentally, where you've gone, oh, wow, this is a big gap, say, between school cricket and that next level, and I've got to try and close that gap?
I'd say it's definitely that cricket brain. I think a lot of cricketers talk about being able to outthink your opponent, especially as a bowler. That is it's a big part of being a fast bowler, being a bowler in general, is being able to outthink the batsman. And I mean, the Lions has got Alan Donald as a bowling coach, and I think he said it so beautifully. He said, your first ball and your fourth ball need to speak with each other. Not your third and your fourth, but your first and your fourth ball. So that's definitely something, an area of my game where I felt this is some place that I can improve and should improve in. So that's definitely something over the last 12 months I've been working on. And every time I get an opportunity, I ask these professionals, why did you do it? What's your reasoning behind it? Just trying to get as much information so that once I am in a similar position, I almost know all these different ways you can outthink your opponent and how to think about the game in different scenarios and situations.
Yeah, and I think that's such a difficult part of the game to coach is the cricket brain. And we're not necessarily talking about the mentals, the mindset stuff. We're talking about that tacticalness in the game to be able to be a step ahead. I love that sort of analogy of getting your first ball and your fourth ball to talk with each other. I don't necessarily know what the intention of that is 100% from Alan, but I like when you said it, and I've never heard it before, but when you said it, it's almost like understanding ahead of time where you want to go. So yeah, I'm going to bowl this first ball, but it's part of a larger sort of idea of something that I'm busy working on here. And in that way, you could most probably still say that your first over must talk with your fourth over. Like that there's this thread that you can pull through an innings potentially, instead of just thinking one ball in an isolation. And I think that's such a great piece of advice. Like, even if you didn't say it so directly, but you often hear, and I'm sure as a fast bowler, you've had this, some coach somewhere say, don't try and take a wicket every ball.
Yes.
Like, don't run up and every ball has to be the wicket ball. So it's that understanding that I think you're alluding to a little bit, that, hey, what am I doing that's puzzling this whole thing together? That is not trying to get the guy out every ball, but how am I trying to set them up so that my first ball and my fourth ball can speak with each other?
Yes, exactly. It's really, it's almost like bowling. It is bowling like with a plan, but it's all about, can you execute and be consistent enough? And I think that's also where the consistency really comes in. It's, if you've got an idea and you picked something up, can you, not the next ball, but can you, in 4 balls, 5 balls and over, will you be able to get that batsman out? If you're a bowler, and even goes the other way as well, as a batsman, if you can start picking up. And I think it might have been Hashim Amla, he's the batting coach there at the Lions. He said when he played with AB, and I'm going to try my best to say it as much as, or like as he said it, he said the way AB was thinking when he was batting was phenomenal. He could tell you what the next ball, the bowlers, whatever the ball the bowler would be bowling next, AB would be able to tell you what it was going to be. He would be able to tell you what the fourth ball was going to be. So I think it goes both ways, especially. So as a bowler, as much as a bowler needs to be able to outthink the batsman and be able to plan ahead, the batsmen are also able to figure you out as a bowler. And that is really where the beauty of this game comes in, where it's almost cat and mouse, back and forth. Just got to outthink your opponent.
Yeah. And I think it's a part of the game I love. Personally, I really enjoy that interplay between bat and ball. And the sad thing is, I don't think spectators of the game understand that necessarily, right? Because you can't hear it, you can't see it. It sort of happens in the minds of people. It maybe happens quietly in a dressing room where there's a conversation. It maybe happens between a captain and a bowler on the field, where there's no mic there that gives you an insight into what the people are busy doing. I mean, if you use the recent test match between Australia and England, like, what happened for Australia? Was it just luck that Boland all of a sudden came on after lunch and took 3 wickets? Or did they realize something? Did they have an understanding of, hang on, we're under the pump here a little bit. England's leading by over 100 runs with 1 wicket down, and Boland seemed to sort of just adjust slightly before lunch there, find a different length. All of a sudden something happened, and then they came after lunch, and then they just blew them out the water, right? And so who knows what happened? But I love that you're sort of in a place where you're trying to figure these things out and learn more about it. Is there a nugget of gold that's been shared with you over the last little bit, or something that you've learned by yourself or become aware of, where you go, hang on, this could be a good strategy as a fast bowler? Like, there's the normal bowl a couple of short ones, go for the Yorker. Is there something more to that you think you've discovered? And I mean, feel free to share as much or what you want. We don't necessarily have to give away everything so that people can hear about it and understand it. But in the name of, or in the idea of the podcast being a place where we can share some stuff and others can learn from it, just like you learn from at your practices. Is there a little piece of gold there that you think is worthwhile for others to know?
It's a very good question. I think something I've picked up over probably the last couple of months is as a bowler, you almost get into that type of rhythm where you can almost let a batsman's, or you would like a batsman's to head fall over to the one side, and you pick it up maybe from his feet position, or sometimes it's his trigger movement, but there's always, and you'd be lucky to find it, but you always look for some form of his head slightly going to a certain area, certain direction. And that's something I've been trying to figure out, because it's not something I've been able to pick up quite easily. I mean, it's, as I said, it's something I've learned from these masters of the craft. But if you are able to see when a batsman is going, body is moving to a certain line, you can almost use that to your advantage, force him to get comfortable with that movement, and then, for instance, that classic going away from his body, away from his body, away from his body, back into him. If you can almost get the batsman's body moving to a certain direction and into a certain position, and he's getting comfortable, once you do the one that's going to the other direction, that's gold.
Yeah. And I love what you say there from a couple of different parts, right? And maybe I just want to sort of shine a bit of a spotlight on it. Is one, the analysis of batters. So often you think, I'm a bowler, I do my bowling. And earlier in the conversation was around, I got to hit my length. But here we're saying the fast bowler must also know the art of batting to a certain extent, and the other way around, right? Batters must understand what the bowler is actually trying to do with him. This bowler is just shaping it away. What are they actually looking for? Yeah, are they waiting for my head to go? Are they waiting for that head to fall? And as soon as their head falls, they go up, they come with that one back in. And so I think that's pretty awesome. I think that's a cool thing to be aware of, a cool thing to learn, a cool thing to understand. I remember reading in Shane Warne's autobiography. This is the place where I learned it. This, like, my mind was blown when I read this, and this was many, many years ago. But he was explaining how he gets how he's sort of thinking about getting somebody out, and he's like, okay, and it's this idea of the first ball speaking to the fourth ball. And so maybe this is quite a cool, relevant example for it, and maybe it benefits you in some way. I don't know. But what he explained was, I'm going to get this guy out with a googly on the fifth ball of this over, right? The fifth ball of the over, I'm going to get this guy out. So first ball, I'm going to bowl on off stump, and I'm going to turn it away. I'm going to bowl a big leg break. I'm going to turn it on off stump. I'm going to turn it away. Second ball, I'm going to bowl it just outside off stump. But I'm going to bowl a big leg break, and I'm going to turn it away. Third ball, I'm going to bowl it just a little bit wider. And so what I'm doing is, as he explains it, is like he's dragging that front foot. He's dragging that front foot wider and wider and wider and wider. So every ball is a big leg break, but he just bowls it systematically wider and wider and wider outside off stump, so that when that foot is in the place where he wants it to be, he can go slider, googly, whatever, and set up the wicket. And I was sort of fascinated by that. Like, that is the level that this guy thinks at. And then it comes 100%, I think, to what you're explaining around the consistency. Because if I'm not consistent, I can't execute that plan. If I bowl the ball down leg, or I go too short, I'm not really being able to drag that front foot across in that way. And so I think I didn't actually think of it before, but sort of you bringing these points up, I'm like, oh yeah, that resonates. And so Shane Warne had this strategy. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it was called WWW, right? Like the internet, WWW. He called it where, when, or what, when, why. What am I bowling? No, what, where, why. What am I bowling? Where am I bowling it? Why am I bowling it there? So he's going like, I'm bowling a big leg break on off stump. Why? Because I'm setting up the LBW. I'm bowling outside off stump. And so he would consistently like ask himself those three questions. What am I bowling? Where am I bowling it? Why am I bowling it there? And then I suppose the when could come in. Like, when do I actually want to do this? Is it the first ball, the last ball? Maybe it's only going to be my third over. But I think if we have that understanding, then that starts speaking to these technical, to that thinking brain being a little bit more active. JJ, what's busy happening over the last couple of weeks? Like, what's your prep looking like? You got Coke Week coming up, or Kaya Majola Week, I think, as it's called now. You trying to stay injury free, I'm assuming, for that. And then after that, are you doing Cubs Week, or are you just going SA20?
So we've got a Kaya Majola Week coming up in, I think it's about 3 weeks' time. So that's definitely something we've been working to. Unfortunately, last year I was injured during the tournament, so I missed that. So I'm really looking forward to playing. So definitely trying to be injury free.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of prep happening, a lot of running, a lot of bowling with the team and the coaches, so that we give ourselves the best shot at winning the tournament. Then after, so not unfortunately, but I won't be at the SA20 this year because there's an under-19 World Cup happening in January, and it's going to take part in Zimbabwe and Namibia. So I said, unfortunately, as if I'm privileged enough to make that World Cup team, that I'm really looking forward to that. That's definitely something I've been working towards over this last probably 18 months. It's definitely working towards this World Cup and making the World Cup team. So fingers crossed that I get that opportunity, because I think it's definitely any athlete, any cricketer, it's a big dream or something on their bucket list is to represent their country at a World Cup, even if it is under 19 World Cup. It's definitely something I would like to do, and I'm looking forward to. So that is definitely something that I am working towards for the new year.
Yeah, brilliant. I didn't know there was the World Cup was in January already. Where is it, did you say?
It's in Namibia and Zimbabwe.
Oh, Namibia and Zimbabwe. Oh, interesting. Sure. I thought it was a little bit later. Firstly, I didn't know it was next year. Okay, awesome. JJ, this has been an enjoyable conversation. If you could leave the listeners with sort of any final thoughts on fast bowling, on walking the path as a young cricketer, the highs, the lows, what would that be?
Sorry, Jody. You broke up a bit. Can you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, no problem at all. So I wanted to know, like, if there's any final thoughts, right, from you as a young cricketer that's busy walking this journey, that's trying to figure it out yourself, right? That you've tasted a little bit of success. If there was maybe let's go with this. Like, what is the most significant thing that you've learned, right, that you think can be of value to other people as they also trying to figure this thing out?
I think something big for me is failure isn't final, but so is success. You're always going to be on this wave in sport where you're up and down. And if you're down, just remember, you're not always going to be in bad form or struggling. So failures is part of the game. It's something that I've been working hard on accepting and trying to learn from it, because that's where you learn the most in anything in life, is through your failures. But it's also when you're successful and when you're doing well, you just need to remember you can always go a bit more, you can always do a bit better. And if you're successful and you're doing well, just keep pushing towards and never get complacent, never try and stay in that zone, because it's, as I said, it's just a wave of up and down. You just need to ride it.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's great advice for anybody that's listening. JJ, thank you for your time, really appreciated having you on the conversation.